Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into ethics. But forget the dusty old philosophy books. We're talking about ethics as a real-world, practical guide for your career. It's all about knowing how to make the right call when it really, really matters. So let's jump right in. Okay, so let's start with a little thought experiment. Imagine this exact scene. Your group project gets a big fat A. Awesome, right? But you just know that one person in your group did pretty much nothing. It feels totally unfair. So what do? Do you say something and risk all the drama? Or do you just let it go? See, that's an ethical dilemma right there. And it's in these small, everyday moments that ethics stops being theoretical and gets very, very real. And that little scenario proves a point. Ethics isn't just for huge corporate scandals you see on the news. It's woven into our everyday lives. So to make sure we're all on the same page, let's really nail down what we're talking about here. I know, a definition slide. But stick with me for a second, because the key words here are moral principles and govern. That tells you that ethics isn't just some vague gut feeling. It's actually a system, a framework you can use to figure out how you should behave. Think of it less like a fuzzy feeling and more like a moral compass you can actually learn to read. But here's where reading that compass can get a little tricky. Because you see, we don't just operate with one set of rules. The way you act with your family and friends isn't always going to be the exact same way you need to act at your job. It's kind of like you have to learn to wear two different hats, your personal one and your professional one. Let's break this down. Our personal ethics, that's our foundation. It's who we are, shaped by our upbringing, our culture, our own experiences. But then you step into the workplace, and you have to put on your professional hat. That hat comes with a formal code of conduct, a set of standards that everyone in your field agrees to follow. And here's the kicker. Sometimes that professional code has to override your personal feelings. The classic example is a lawyer. They might personally believe their client is guilty, but their professional ethics demand, absolutely require, that they give that client the best defense possible. So when we talk about these professional codes, don't think of them as just a boring list of rules. It's way more helpful to think of them as your professional toolkit. These are the core virtues, the actual tools you're going to need to build a successful and, more importantly, a responsible career. And these three tools, they all work together. It starts with ingenuity. That spark of a clever idea. But a great idea is pretty useless without diligence. That's the hard work, the grind, the careful effort to actually make it happen, and make it happen right. And finally, you have responsibility. That's about owning the result, good or bad. It means if something goes wrong, you don't point fingers. You step up, you own it, and you fix it. So if ingenuity, diligence, and responsibility are the engine of your professional life, what's the steering wheel? It's this: integrity. Integrity is the glue. It's the moral force that holds everything else together and makes sure you're using those tools for good. Without integrity, a clever idea can be used to cause harm, hard work can be for the wrong reasons, and responsibility just becomes about covering your own back. Integrity is what it's all about. So what happens when that toolkit fails? What happens when integrity completely breaks down under pressure? Well, to really see the stakes, we need to look at a real-world story where a failure of responsibility and integrity didn't just cause a problem, it led to a national tragedy. The date is January 28, 1986. The Space Shuttle Challenger is sitting on the launch pad. Millions of people, including tons of school kids, are glued to their TVs, absolutely buzzing to see the first teacher go into space. It was supposed to be a moment of pure inspiration. But what happened next became one of the most sobering lessons in the history of professional ethics. This wasn't just an accident. It was a countdown to an ethical failure. The day before the launch, engineers were sounding the alarm. They were saying, hey, it is dangerously cold. These O-rings, these tiny rubber seals, could fail. They had absolutely no data to say a launch at this temperature was safe. But that night, management, facing intense pressure to launch on schedule, made a catastrophic choice. They overruled their own engineers. The next morning, Challenger launched. And just 73 seconds later, the shuttle and its 7 crew members were gone. The investigation that followed included the brilliant physicist Richard Feynman, and his conclusion was just gut-wrenching. He said this wasn't an act of God or some unavoidable accident. This was a man-made disaster. A disaster that didn't have to happen. It was a complete failure of communication, of responsibility, and ultimately of integrity. The story of Challenger is a heavy one, but it's a powerful reminder of what is truly at stake. So let's bring it back home. How can we take these lessons and use them to build our own moral compass, to make sure that we're always making the right call? All right, let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. Number 1, ethics is a practical tool, not just some vague feeling. Number 2, your professional code, that is your North Star when your personal beliefs and your job duties are in conflict. Number 3, integrity is the cornerstone of it all. It's not optional. And 4, as the Challenger story shows us, ethical failures have real, sometimes devastating consequences. At the end of the day, every decision you make, big and small, builds your reputation and defines your legacy. So I'll leave you with this one final thought. In your career, there will be a moment when the pressure is on. Someone will ask you to cut a corner, to look the other way, to put a deadline ahead of doing the right thing. And when that moment comes, what will your decisions say about you?